A demonstration organised by Occupy Sydney took place on Saturday in protest of what organisers described as the growing corporate greed in Australia. Speakers slammed the repression of the Occupy movement both in Australia and overseas.
We have seen the incredible violence used against peaceful protesters across the world, and particularly in Melbourne. And we know that what we are seeing is the desperate face of the guardians of the 1%, trying to silence the voices of the majority of the 99%.
The protesters then marched through the city for a so-called corporate tour to highlight growing economic inequality in light of job insecurity, housing stress and rising living costs.
This is a time when Australians are looking across the world, looking to Tahrir Square, looking to Tunisia, looking to Wall Street, looking particularly to Greece, and seeing the ways that people are finally standing up to the incredible austerity, the incredible totalitarianism and the incredible repression that we've been facing for so many years.
The first stop of the tour was outside the Coles supermarket City Store. Coles is the biggest seller of Baida poultry products. Baida workers have been on an indefinite strike in Victoria because of unsafe conditions in the factory. The strike is also aimed at the use of contract labour and paying workers below the minimum wage. The second stop on the tour was the Commonwealth Bank in Martin Place. CEO Ralph Norris is the highest paid in Australia. Protesters expressed outrage at the CEO's weekly earnings, which is nearly the average annual wage of a full-time permanent employee in Australia. Next door to the Commonwealth Bank lies the US consulate, where protesters slammed Australia's commitment to strengthen military ties with the US, contrary to public opinion. Following Julia Gillard's agreement with Obama to open a US base in Darwin and with the ongoing war in Afghanistan, protesters say they want to draw attention to the profits being made by the US-Australia alliance. Protesters say that the invasion and war in Afghanistan and Iraq was driven by profits through control of the region's oil resources, a war which has cost the lives of countless civilians and resulted in large-scale destruction of infrastructure.
I think it's important for us to recognise that it's not just the everyday exploitation of workers that is the source of the wealth and riches of the 1%. They also get incredibly wealthy and rich by waging war and plundering wealth from around the world, particularly in the Middle East at the moment.
Lastly, the tour ended at the New South Wales Parliament, where speakers discussed planned cutbacks by the state Premier Barry O'Farrell. O'Farrell plans to cap public sector wages at 2.5%, despite inflation figures which stand at roughly 3% annually. Rihab Sharida, Press TV, Sydney.